Close your eyes. Let the weight of the day begin to lift from your shoulders. Let your breathing slow, and deepen, and settle into a quiet rhythm. There is nothing left to do tonight. The work is finished. The noise of the world is fading. And you are here, in the stillness, ready to rest. Tonight we travel to the ancient world of Judea. To a land of dust and olive trees and wide open skies. To a place where the sun sets slowly over limestone hills, painting everything in shades of amber and rose before the deep indigo of night takes over. The air smells of dry grass and distant fires. Somewhere, a dog barks once, and then is quiet. The stars are coming out one by one. This is the world Jesus stepped into when he told this story. He told it to a crowd gathered around him, Pharisees who kept the rules, tax collectors who had broken them, ordinary people who were not sure where they stood. And he told them about a father, and 2 sons, and the strange, reckless, overwhelming nature of love. Let your body grow heavy. Let your hands open softly. Let your thoughts settle like dust after a long journey. We begin. There was a man who had 2 sons. He lived on a large estate in the hill country, a prosperous man, respected in his community, with fields of grain and olive trees and a household full of servants. His older son had grown into a steady, reliable worker, the kind of young man you could trust. His younger son was different, restless, bright-eyed, always looking toward the horizon, always wondering what lay beyond the next hill. One day, the younger son came to his father. He did not come with a request that was easy to make. He did not come with small talk or pleasantries. He came with something that cut straight to the heart. "Father," he said, "give me the share of property that is coming to me." In the world of that time, this was an extraordinary thing to ask. An inheritance was given when a father died, not before. To ask for it while the father was still living was, in the language of that culture, nearly equivalent to saying, "I wish you were dead." "I want what I will get from you, but I do not want you. I want the gift without the giver." The father could have refused. He had every right to refuse. He could have been angry, or wounded, or cold. Any of those responses would have been understandable. But he divided his property between his 2 sons. He let the younger one go. This is the first extraordinary thing about this father. He did not clutch. He did not control. He did not make the son stay by force or by guilt or by the sheer weight of obligation. He opened his hands and he let go. Even knowing, perhaps, what would come next. Not many days later, the younger son gathered everything he had and took a journey into a far country. The road away from home always looks wide and bright at the beginning. The pack on your back feels light. The future stretches out ahead of you, full of possibility. There is the intoxication of freedom, the sense that you are finally yourself, finally unencumbered, finally free to become whatever you choose. The young man arrived in the far country. And he spent. He spent lavishly, extravagantly, with the reckless joy of someone who has never had to earn what he is spending. There were friends, or people who seemed like friends. There was food and wine and music and laughter. There were nights that blurred into mornings and mornings that blurred back into nights. He did not think about home. Or if he did, he pushed the thought away. And then, in that country, a severe famine arose. The money ran out. The friends disappeared, as fair-weather friends always do, as quickly and completely as if they had never existed. The young man found himself alone in a foreign land with nothing. He went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to feed pigs. He sat in the muddy field, watching the animals eat, and he was so hungry that he longed to fill his stomach with the pods the pigs were eating. The carob pods. The food for animals. And no one gave him anything. This is the lowest point of the story. And it is told very plainly, no drama, no heightening of the pathos. Just a young man in a pig field, far from home, with nothing left. The contrast is total, from the warmth of his father's house to this cold, muddy, empty place. From abundance to hunger. From belonging to complete aloneness. And then, the text says it simply, beautifully, he came to himself. He came to himself. As if he had been away from himself for a long time. As if the journey into the far country had also been a journey away from who he really was. And now, in the mud and the hunger and the loneliness, something cracked open. Something true surfaced. He said to himself, quietly, in that pig field, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. He rehearsed the speech. He worked out the words. He knew he had given up the right to be called a son. He was not going home to reclaim his place at the table, he was going home to ask for the lowest position in the household. A servant. Just a servant. Just a chance to survive, to eat, to be near home even if he could never be fully inside it again. He got up. He turned his face toward home. And he walked. The road back is always longer than the road away. Every step back is heavier, weighted with the knowledge of what you did, what you spent, what you wasted, what you lost. He walked through the far country. He walked through the borderlands. He walked through the dust and the heat with nothing in his hands and his rehearsed speech going over and over in his mind. Father, I have sinned. I am no longer worthy. And while he was still a great way off, his father saw him. This detail stops everything. While he was still a great way off, the father was watching. The father had been watching the road. Not in anger, not in waiting to say I told you so, not even in the complicated mixture of hope and dread that any parent might feel, but watching. Looking. Every day, perhaps, looking down that road. And he saw his son. And he recognized him even from a distance, perhaps by his walk, perhaps by some ineffable quality that only a parent can recognize in their child across a great distance. The father was filled with compassion. He ran. In the culture of the ancient Near East, a man of position did not run. Running was undignified. It was the movement of servants, of children, of people who had not yet learned the measured pace of authority. For the father to run toward his returning son was to abandon all dignity, all social expectation, all the weight of the wound the son had inflicted. He ran. He threw his arms around his son. He kissed him. The son began his speech. Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. The father was not listening to the speech. Or rather, he heard it, but it did not change anything. Because the embrace had already happened before the words were spoken. The running had already happened. The compassion had already happened. The welcome was not contingent on the apology. The love had not been waiting for the right words before it could flow again. The father turned to his servants and said, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found. And they began to celebrate. The best robe. Not a servant's clothes, the best robe, perhaps the father's own finest garment, placed on the shoulders of a boy who had come home smelling of pig fields and failure. A ring on his hand, a signet ring, a symbol of sonship and authority, not withheld but given immediately. Shoes on his feet, servants went barefoot, sons wore shoes. Everything that had been stripped away in the far country was restored in a single moment. Not gradually. Not after a period of proving himself. Not after a careful assessment of whether he had really learned his lesson. Immediately. Fully. Without reservation. The fattened calf, the animal kept for the greatest celebrations, was killed. Music began. There was dancing. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. The father did not say, for this my son made a foolish mistake and has now corrected it. He did not say, for this my son wasted my money and has come crawling back. He said, he was dead. And now he is alive. He was lost. And now he is found. The language of resurrection. The language of miracle. For a father who loves like this, the return of a child is not a logistical event to be managed. It is a resurrection. It is a miracle. It deserves everything the house can give. Let this sink into you as you rest. You may know what it is to be in a far country. Not necessarily a literal one, but the far country of choices that took you away from who you were meant to be. The far country of habits or hurts or years spent in places that left you empty. The far country of distance from God, from the people who love you, from your own best self. And you may know what it is to come to yourself. That moment of clarity in the mud and the hunger, when the noise quiets enough for truth to surface. When you remember what home felt like. When you realize that even a servant's place would be better than this. The good news of this story is very simple. While you were still a great way off, he saw you. He was already running. Now let the story continue. Because Jesus told it with another character, one whose part is just as important, just as revealing, just as human. The older son was in the field. He had been there all day, as he was every day, working, faithful, steady. He was everything a firstborn son was supposed to be. He had not asked for his inheritance early. He had not run off to a far country. He had stayed. He had worked. He had done everything right. As he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what was going on. "Your brother has come," the servant said, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has received him back safe and sound." The older son was angry. And he would not go in. This is its own kind of far country, the far country of resentment, of keeping careful accounts, of measuring love in units of deserving and not deserving. The older son had never left home in body. But something in him had been far from his father for a long time. Something in him had been working not out of love but out of expectation, the expectation that faithfulness would eventually be rewarded, that staying would be recognized, that the careful ledger he had been keeping would one day be settled in his favor. The father came out to him. Again, the father went out. Not waiting inside for the son to decide to come in. Not sending a servant with a message. The father himself went out to the older son, just as he had run to the younger one. The older son said, with all the compressed bitterness of years, "Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command, yet you never gave me a young goat, that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him. This son of yours." He could not say, "my brother." The father answered him, and the tenderness in the answer is almost unbearable. Son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. You are always with me. Not, you are right, I should have given you a party. Not, your brother deserved what happened to him. Not, your anger is understandable but misplaced. Just this, at the center of everything, son. You are always with me. Everything I have is yours. The older son had been living in his father's house, eating his father's food, sleeping under his father's roof, and somehow he had not known that he was already in the feast. He had been working as if he were a servant when he was a son. He had been counting what he was owed when he was already an heir to everything. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, the father said, for this your brother was dead, and is alive. He was lost, and is found. Your brother. The father used that word deliberately. Your brother. The son who could not say it, the father said it for him. The story ends there, unresolved. We do not know if the older son went in. We do not know if he set down the ledger and walked through the door into the music. Jesus left it open, perhaps because the people listening to him that day were the older brothers, the ones keeping careful accounts of who was deserving and who was not. And he was inviting them to choose. The door was open. The music was playing. The father was standing at the threshold, looking out. Will you come in? As the night deepens around you, let both sons rest in your heart for a moment. Perhaps you have been the younger son, reckless, wandering, spending what was not yours to spend, ending up in places you never intended to go. And perhaps you have heard, in some quiet moment, the invitation to come home. To get up from the pig field and turn your face toward the light. Or perhaps you have been the older son, faithful, steady, doing everything right, and yet somehow missing the joy of it. Keeping accounts when you could have been dancing. Standing outside the feast when the door was open all along. In either case, the father is the same. He runs. He goes out. He sees from a great way off. He puts the best robe on shoulders that do not deserve it. He says, Son, you are always with me, everything I have is yours. He refuses to let the ledger be the final word. This is the heart of the story. Not the younger son's failure, not the older son's resentment, but the father's love, which outruns both of them. Which is already at the door before either of them gets there. Let that love settle over you now like a warm cloak on a cold night. You are seen from a great way off. You are always with him. Everything is already yours. The night is full and quiet around you. The ancient hills of Judea are silver in the moonlight. The oil lamps in the windows of the Father's house burn steady and warm. Inside, the music has softened into something slower, something that sounds almost like a lullaby, and the dancing has given way to the easy talk of people who are full and happy and at home. The younger son is asleep in his old room, the room he thought he had forfeited forever, the room that was waiting for him exactly as he left it. He is clean. He is fed. He is wearing the best robe. On his finger, the ring catches the lamplight. And the father sits in the doorway, looking out at the stars. His heart is full. Both his sons are home. Let your breathing slow now, all the way down. In through your nose, long and easy. And out, slow and complete. Again. The stars above Judea are the same stars above you tonight. Ancient, faithful, counting nothing, withholding nothing, simply shining. The same light that fell on the road the younger son walked home. The same light the father stood in as he ran. You do not have to earn this rest. You do not have to deserve it. You do not have to finish the speech before the arms open. The welcome has already happened. Come home. Sleep now, beloved. Deep and peaceful and completely safe. The lamp is burning. The music is soft. The door is open. And you are home. Sleep. Stay a little longer in the stillness of this story. There is no need to rush away from it. Let the images linger, the father on the road, the embrace, the robe, the ring, the music. Let them settle into you the way warmth settles into cold hands held near a fire. Slowly. Completely. Without forcing anything. Think for a moment about the road itself. The road the younger son walked back. It was not a short road. He had gone far, far enough that coming back would take days, perhaps weeks. Far enough that every step was a meditation on what he had done, on the gap between who he had been and who he had become, on the yawning distance between the boy who had left in confidence and the man who was returning in rags. We do not know what he thought about on that road. The text does not tell us his inner life during the journey back, only the speech he rehearsed. Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. Perhaps he ran the speech over and over so that he would not lose his courage. Perhaps the words were a rope he held onto through the long miles. Perhaps he was afraid that if he stopped rehearsing, he would stop walking. That he would sit down in the dust of the road and decide that even the pig field was better than the humiliation of this return. We do not know. But he kept walking. And there is something quietly heroic in that. Not the dramatic heroism of battles or miracles, just the ordinary heroism of putting one foot in front of the other when every step costs something. Of moving toward home even when you are not sure of your welcome. Of getting up from the place of your lowest moment and choosing to move. The ancient rabbis had a saying, the distance between a person and God is exactly one step. You take the step, and God takes care of the rest. The younger son took the step. He arose. And the father ran. Now think about what it means that the father saw him while he was still a great way off. This detail is not accidental. In the telling of this story, Jesus chose these words carefully. Still a great way off. Not when he arrived at the gate. Not when he was close enough to be recognized by his features. From a distance. From far away. Which means the father was looking. Every day, perhaps. Getting up in the morning and walking to the edge of the property and looking down the road. Sitting in the evening with his eyes on the horizon. Not because he was expecting the return, or perhaps precisely because he was hoping for it, even against reason, even after everything. This is the love that sees you before you see yourself coming. This is the love that does not wait for you to clean yourself up, to sort yourself out, to have the right words ready. It is already running before you reach the gate. You may have people in your life who love you like this. Who have been watching the road. Who will run when they see you coming. If so, they are an image, an imperfect, human image, of the love at the heart of this story. And if you do not have such people, or if you have lost them, or if the road home feels too long and too shameful to walk, know that the original is still there. The one the story is really about. The father who runs. He is at the end of every road that leads home. Let your body be completely still now. Feel the weight of you, pressed gently into the surface beneath you. Feel the rise and fall of your breath, the chest lifting, the chest falling, over and over, effortlessly, as it has always done, as it will continue to do while you sleep. There is nothing you need to do right now. Nothing to fix or finish or figure out. The night is doing its work. Your body is doing its work. And you are simply here, held by the quiet, held by the dark, held by something larger than the sum of your worries. The stars above the hills of Judea are ancient beyond imagining. They have been burning since before any of these stories were written, before any of these roads were walked, before any of these prodigal journeys were taken and returned from. They will be burning long after. And yet they see you. The love that made them sees you. Let your breathing slow another notch. In through your nose. Hold it gently. And release. Again. Think now about the feast. The fattened calf. The music. The dancing. The best robe and the ring and the shoes. The father's instructions to his servants, given in rapid succession, as if he has been planning this celebration for a long time, as if it was all ready, just waiting for the occasion. Bring the best robe. Put a ring on his hand. Shoes on his feet. Kill the fattened calf. Let us eat and celebrate. The servants did not hesitate. They did not look at each other in confusion, or mutter among themselves about whether this was appropriate, or whether the young master had really earned this welcome. They moved. They brought. They prepared. The household understood, perhaps, what the father's heart had always been, and they moved in rhythm with it. This is what joy looks like when it is not earned but given. When it arrives not at the end of a long period of proving yourself but at the beginning of a return. When it does not wait for the right conditions but creates them. When it does not measure out gladness in proportion to deserving but pours it out, lavishly, recklessly, the way the young man once poured out his inheritance in the far country. The father celebrated with the same extravagance the son had once wasted. But this extravagance was not wasted. This extravagance was the point. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. Dead. And alive. The father did not use small words for what had happened. He used the biggest words he had. Death and resurrection. Loss and finding. Not, my son made some mistakes. Not, my son is back and we'll see how it goes. Dead. Alive. Lost. Found. These are the words you use when something impossible has happened. And that is exactly what the father believed had happened. There is a particular kind of joy that comes only after a particular kind of grief. The joy of something recovered that was given up for lost. The joy of arms around someone you thought you would never hold again. The joy that does not need to be explained, that music rises to meet naturally, that feet respond to before the mind has caught up. The servants played. The household danced. And somewhere in the house, an old man laughed, really laughed, for the first time in a very long time. Now the other son. Let us stay with him a little longer, out there in the evening air, with the sounds of the feast coming through the walls. He is not a villain. That is important to understand. He is not cold or cruel or without love. He is simply wounded. He has been faithful for years, and faithfulness that goes unacknowledged begins to curdle into something that no longer feels like faithfulness. It begins to feel like servitude. Like obligation. Like a debt that never gets paid. He had served. He had obeyed. He had stayed. And the fattened calf had never been killed for him. He had never asked for a party, but perhaps because he never felt he could ask. Perhaps because the asking felt too vulnerable, too much like admitting he wanted something, too much like the younger brother who had asked for his inheritance and taken off. Perhaps he had been performing goodness for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to simply want. When the father came out to him and said, "Son, "You are always with me, everything I have is yours," this was not a rebuke. It was a revelation. The older son had been living as a servant in his own father's house. He had not understood that the inheritance was not something coming to him, it was something he was already standing in. The fields were already his. The house was already his. The relationship was already his. He had been working to earn something he already possessed. How often do we do this? How often do we live as if love is something to be earned rather than received? As if belonging is a status to be achieved rather than a gift to be accepted? As if we are still on probation in a house that has already declared us home? You are always with me. Everything I have is yours. These are the words spoken to the son who stayed. And perhaps they are harder to receive than the robe and the ring and the feast, because they do not come at a dramatic turning point, they do not follow a long journey and a tearful return. They come quietly, at the end of a long ordinary day, in the evening air outside a house full of music. They are the words of a love that has been there all along. Receive them now, wherever you are. You are always with him. Everything is already yours. The music from the feast has grown softer now. The dancing has slowed. The lamps burn low and warm in every window of the Father's house. The younger son is sleeping, finally, the deep sleep of someone who has come home after a very long journey. The older son, we hope, has walked through the door, has let the bitterness rest for tonight, has allowed himself to be pulled in by the music and the light and the Father's steady love. And the Father sits in the doorway. The same doorway where he watched the road every morning. Tonight there is no need to watch. Both his sons are under his roof. The house is full. The celebration is complete. He looks up at the stars, the same stars that have always been there, patient and unchanging above the drama of human choices and human returns. He is content. And you, too, can be content tonight. Whatever road you have been on, whether you are just returning from a far country, or whether you have been faithfully at work in the fields without knowing you were already home, tonight you can rest. The door is open. The lamp is lit. The Father's heart is full. You are not a servant. You are a son. You are a daughter. You are known and claimed and loved and home. Let your eyes be closed and your breathing deep and your body completely at rest. The night will hold you. The stars will keep their ancient watch. And morning will come in its own good time. For now, sleep. Deep and peaceful. You are home. Sleep. Stay a little longer in the quiet. There is no hurry. The night is long and generous, and the story has not quite finished with you yet. Let it continue to work in you, the way water works into dry ground, slowly, without force, finding every crack and hollow. Think about the road one more time. Not the road of the journey away, and not the road of the return, but the road of the ordinary days. The road the older son walked every morning from the house to the fields. The road the servants walked carrying water and grain and firewood. The road the father walked to the edge of the property to look toward the horizon. Most of life is lived on these roads. Not on the dramatic roads of departure and return, but on the quiet roads of ordinary faithfulness. The road of getting up and doing what needs to be done. The road of being present, day after day, in the same fields, with the same tasks, under the same sky. And Jesus honored both roads in this story. He honored the dramatic road, the road of the prodigal, the road of returning, the road of the impossible homecoming. But he also honored the quiet road, by showing us the Father going out to the older son, by showing us the love that says you are always with me, by reminding us that the ordinary days are not less than the dramatic ones. Both sons were loved. Both roads led to the Father's door. There is a particular grace in the ordinary. In the mornings that begin simply, with bread and work and the familiar faces of people you have known for years. In the evenings that end gently, with lamplight and the sounds of the household settling into sleep. In the seasons that turn without drama, planting and harvest, rain and sun, the slow reliable cycling of days. If your life is mostly ordinary right now, if there is no dramatic arc unfolding, no great departure or great return, just the quiet road of daily faithfulness, know that this, too, is the story. This, too, is the feast. The older son was already in the middle of everything that mattered. He simply had not learned to see it yet. Let your eyes rest. Let your face relax, the forehead softening, the jaw unclenching, the muscles around your eyes releasing. Breathe. The ancient world of this story is very close to you tonight. Not in distance, thousands of years and thousands of miles separate you from those limestone hills and olive groves. But in the thing that matters most, it is very close. Because the father in the story is not a character in history. He is a portrait. A window. A way of seeing the love that is as present tonight as it was on any road in ancient Judea. The love that runs. The love that watches the horizon. The love that throws a party at the return of what was lost. The love that steps outside to say, "Son, daughter, you are always with me." That love is here tonight. It is in the room with you. It is in the quiet, in the dark, in the steady rhythm of your breathing. It does not require drama to be present. It does not require a story to be real. It simply is, patient, watching, ready to run. Let yourself be found by it. Not by striving or reaching or getting the words exactly right. Just by lying still in the night and letting it come to you, the way the Father came running down the road. You do not have to earn this rest. You do not have to be the right kind of son or daughter tonight. You just have to be here. And you are here. The moon has moved across the sky above the hills of Judea. The lamplight in the windows of the Father's house has softened to a warm glow. The music from the feast is long finished now. The household is asleep, everyone safe, everyone fed, everyone under the Father's roof. The night air is cool and clean and full of the smell of olive trees and dry earth and the faint sweetness of the harvest that has been brought in. Somewhere a night bird calls once, softly, and is quiet. The stars are very bright. And somewhere in a small room in a house on a hill, a young man who was once lost is sleeping. His face is peaceful. His breathing is deep and slow. On his hand, the ring catches a sliver of moonlight coming through the window. He is home. You are home. Sleep now. Let the night do its quiet work. Let your body rest completely, your mind drift gently, your spirit be still. You are seen. You are known. You are loved with a love that runs down roads. Sleep, beloved. Deep, and peaceful, and completely safe. Sleep.